While there are numerous reviews out there on these pedals, my goal today isn't to add another review to the mix. Instead, I'm diving into a deeper discussion based on personal experience and the debate of brake travel. Before that, usual disclaimer. Asetek Sim Sports provided these pedals for review purposes, but all of my thoughts and opinions are free from any influence. The debate over brake travel intensified within the community when Asetek released their pedals, claiming that race cars have very short brake travel. Now I can conclude this topic by saying whatever feels best to you is justified, but my instincts as a fellow sim racer and physics enthusiast led me to dig deeper. I intend to dip my toes in engineering and make the topic easy to digest by considering factors that are often overlooked. And before we address the confusion, it's essential to understand the basic mechanism of a hydraulic brake system and why race cars have hard brakes. This is a brake fluid reservoir which is typically located directly above the master cylinder in most vehicles. In some cases, the reservoir might be placed a bit farther but still positioned higher to ensure proper fluid flow with some assistance from gravity. The piston inside the master cylinder is connected to a push rod which generates hydraulic pressure when brake pedal is pressed. On the opposite end, it has a return spring which releases the hydraulic pressure and resets the piston's position after braking. The other end of the cylinder is connected to the brake line, which transmits the pressure to the brake calipers or the drum, which in turn pushes the brake pad against the rotor, effectively slowing or stopping the car. With the basics covered, let's talk about the travel of brakes and why they are stiff. Generally, a shorter travel is preferred to have quicker response from the brakes. The key term here is shorter, specifically in comparison to road-going cars. This could mean a travel of 2 cm, 5 cm, or something else. My point is, shorter travel is generally considered beneficial. Now about the stiffness. Brakes in a race car are really hard to push because of two main reasons. First, absence of brake booster. This means driver exerts a substantial amount of force to generate the necessary pressure within the braking system to bring the car to a halt or slow it down effectively. And the brake booster is just a force and pressure amplifier. Second, avoiding a dangerous situation. If the pedals are squishy and the driver could reach maximum or close to maximum, say 70 or 80% of braking force without factoring in the weight shift due to G-forces, well, that's a recipe for disaster waiting to happen. Which is why stiffer brakes are generally preferred. Now that we have covered most of the theory, let's address the confusion. When it comes to the overall feel of brakes, whether be it in a simulator or real life, the most important factor to consider is driver's preference. Some prefer longer travel for better modulation, while others prefer shorter. Some prefer to exert less force, others love leg day a bit too much, myself included. I am aware that most videos show significant pedal travel, and that could be due to factors including but not limited to driver's preference, brake fade, air and braking system, or worn brake pads. You might have noticed that in those videos there's no mention of brake pressure and temperature, condition of brake pads, or the lap count. Without considering these variables, it's easy to mistakenly conclude that race brakes naturally have a lot of travel, especially when considering perspectives from those who haven't actually driven or experienced a race car firsthand. The confusion increases further when we talk about iRacing. It has brake fade, but there's no way to physically feel it. You can sense the brakes fading, but this sensation isn't replicated in the pedals. In reality, brake fade increases pedal travel, which doesn't happen in simulation. Even SimiCube's active pedal do not seem to provide this kind of feedback yet. Though with the recent advancements, we might see that change soon. But back to the point. There's no definitive answer to race cars having long or short travel. It ultimately boils down to individual driver preference, vehicle class, and driving conditions. What works best varies greatly from driver to driver. Like I said, since those videos don't provide any crucial data, concluding a topic as delicate as this can be difficult. Now let's put an end to the lecture and talk about these pedals. Starting with the two-stage braking, which I'm particularly fond of. Asetek refers to this as soft and hard stage. This isn't the first nor the only one to have this on a brake. Husingveld Sprints came out on 2018 and they have it. The first stage is the simulated movement of brake pad from its normal position to the rotor where the pressure is relatively low. This is achieved by the compression of this spring. Second stage is the compression of elastomer where the travel gets limited. The name two-stage braking may sound like a gimmick, but isn't. The initial stage can be tuned and has a travel of 15 to 25 mm. Mine is set in a way where the initial travel gives me around 30 something percent of braking before the elastomer starts to compress. This brake has very less travel by design, as I think it's catered to a specific type of player base. Andre's explanation claims that it is easy to remember the force you apply on the brake because you're in control of your nervous system at all times. And I agree with his statement. I have found applying force on a brake with shorter travel to be far beneficial on track racing. Not so much on rally titles though. Initially, the brake felt unusually stiff. Product manual said to use the default configuration for at least 5 hours before making adjustments, so I gave it a couple of days just to be sure, and then swapped the elastomer. The short travel made me brake just a few milliseconds later, but I was braking more confidently with fewer errors. I was coming out of most of the corners with a smug face. Even the trail braking was smooth. Very rarely I locked up my tires and braking got consistent to a point where I started abusing the car a bit too much. I had a blast in track racing, but rallying was not quite as enjoyable, as I find longer travel natural over there. My test rig has P1000s mounted on it, and every now and then I jump back on it for a quick RBR session, as I like the compression from those bead-shaped elastomers. Compared to the compression you would get from a single block, this would be better in some use cases. Think of this difference as sitting on a log compared to sitting on hay. Both are good, just under different circumstances. That said, it's not that I cannot drive or achieve similar times using Sprint or La Prima. It's just a matter of overall feel and preference. Where the brakes were proving to be a significant advantage, the throttle kept messing with me. Let me explain. As much as I liked the brake, I found the throttle to be subpar at best. It only has the torsion spring, which is weaker than I expected. I prefer a more responsive and firm throttle, and this one did not meet my expectations. To put it in perspective, this throttle reminded me of my time with TLCMs. But my opinion is subjective. So here is an objective view of why this throttle left much to be desired. One of the pedals is excessively hard and the other is light as a feather, leading to one of your leg working really hard compared to the other. This unusual combination can prove to be quite disorienting, which is exactly what happened to me. Even though I had full control of both of my legs, it took me a long time to get used to it. This might not be the case with everyone, but I highly recommend the Forte upgrade set if you prefer a firm throttle. It will cost you €130 or $141 and might offer a more even/firm feel. While I appreciate how Asetek designed the adjustable points, the pedal spacing is nowhere to be found. They can't be moved around for a more relaxed driving position. That said, I didn't have any issues with spacing, but making the pedals movable leaves room for more adjustability. 90 to 95% of the time, these pedals require no tools for adjustment. The only thing which requires an Allen key are the faceplates. And speaking of, these faceplates are sock friendly. They were comfortable and I had no feet slippage either. The angle on the throttle can be adjusted with this nut and hardly takes 10 seconds to get it right. Same goes for the travel distance. Adjusting the angle on the brake requires the removal of cylinder first, but it is still easy. Swapping the elastomer is quite easy too. And I would like to add that this color scheme of black with orange nuts is quite appealing to look at in person. And the attention to detail is remarkable. This trend towards tool-free adjustments seen with other pedals like V&M Lite and Simagic P1000s adds to the overall positive experience. So where does this leave us? Well, pedal stiffness and travel have always been a topic of debate from simulation point of view and can be perceived as inaccurate at times. Because in real life, there's a piston which needs compression, and in simulators, there's usually a spring or elastomer. Pair that with the simulator's inability to replicate some real-life conditions, it becomes a topic of endless debate. In the end, whatever feels right to you is justified. I have found stiffer pedals with short travel beneficial on track racing, while rally racing feels more natural with longer travel. But this is just my experience, and sim racers are split. Some swear by stiffer pedals for all disciplines, while others need that extra travel for precision and comfort. The La Prima pedals fall into the short and stiff category, and for me, they work best on track. Even on the poll I hosted, the majority of you voted for a mix of stiffness and travel, which only proves that there's no one-size-fits-all sort of solution, which is what makes it so compelling. Considering the price that is €334 or $364, I would say these are priced quite competitively. For similar price, you can get V&M Lite, which in my opinion is also an excellent set of pedals. But the heel plate costs extra. In La Prima, the heel plate is integrated, which is a rare sight these days, considering it's usually detachable and sold separately. The overall fit and finish is great and there wasn't any flex or funny sounds. I really enjoyed my time with these and feel confident in recommending it to people looking for stiff brakes. In my opinion, the elastomer kit should have been included in the box so more people could have tried different setups before sharing their experience. Husing-Wild Sprint can be as stiff as this, but not a lot of people complained about them because there were additional elastomers inside the box. But there's a big price gap between these two and it opens a separate conversation. So I'll leave the marketing and such to respective manufacturers. Let me know your thoughts. That's been it. I've been Darth Snape and may the downforce be with you.